Welcome to your latest Manchester United news. Now, Ruben Amorim will be talking the latest on his sacking and who's likely to come in to replace him at the football club. We'll also be looking at OLE and talking about what that means for the future of Manchester United. So let's start off by talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Now, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the candidate that is leading the race to become the Manchester United manager now. We'll go through all the news that's come out. So Michael Carrick and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer have both been sounded out by Manchester United about the caretaker role until the end of the season. Sources say Ole wants to rewrite the mistakes after his past tenure and would even work with the club for free. So yeah, listen, it's looking like Ole would be the manager that comes to Manchester United. Right now, in terms of the interim basis, we talk about. He's a leading contender. United have had initial conversation with a number of former players under consideration for the role. Ruud van Nistelrooy and Michael Carrick are on the shortlist for managers. And then Laurie Whitwell put this article out a few hours ago. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is a leading contender for Manchester United caretaker job. Club officials have spoken to him today. And then Fabrizio has said Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Manchester United advancing positive talks over caretaker manager role as revealed yesterday. Ole wants the job, and he's a serious candidate with talks well underway. So listen, what I would say about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, obviously a great manager, and he played fluid attacking football at Manchester United. Now again, he's someone who gets the club, so there'd be no problems in sort of finding out and any adaptation. I mean, the main concern would be if you do bring in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is if he does well, he gets Europa League football. There will be people demanding for him to stay, and I think the conditions of that contract that is being set for Manchester United, there would have to be certain clauses in there that make sure that is only a certain deal. And obviously, he wants to come in and help the club, which again you can understand. He's a former player, he's a legend of the football club. Have one of Manchester United's most iconic moments in the Champions League. And you look at his managerial stint at Manchester United and you look at how he would set up this team, it would be obviously a generic 4-2-3-1. And you look at some of the players that he's worked with before that are still at the club, and Maguire, Shaw, Bruno Fernandes. Trying to think of anyone else. Would Rashford come back now? We'll have to wait and see. But he has worked with quite a few players at the club before. And again, I think he'd be able to get some good results with the squad, and that is the aim from now to the end of the season. Again, I don't think there's much better fit. I know a lot of people are frustrated about him because, again, you're rewriting the past, and there's a reason why he's left. But in the fact that he's been spotted in Manchester and the fact that the club officials have spoke to him, I think his future at Manchester United. And he has the support of the senior Manchester United players and some high-profile club legends. So again, he'd be someone who's backed. Would he be with Carrick? Probably he'd come in with Carrick and Fletcher. So yeah, I mean the squad he's gonna inherit would be much better than I would say than the squad that then obviously he had at the club, and I think he'd be able to work with his players and get a lot out of them. So yeah, obviously he's the ideal sort of play a manager to come in at this time of need, and he's willing to help Manchester United. So yeah, Solskjaer is the guy. He's looking like he's gonna come into this team. And again, if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer gets the interim role at Manchester United, he would hope to be made permanent manager again in time, should he do well and prove himself. And again, that is the big negative. And I think the Glazers ultimately the Glazers know what they're doing with this decision. They bring in a ex-manager, ex-player who's already been at the club, played some very good, exciting counter-attacking football, but ultimately got sacked, and there's a reason he got sacked. And there are negatives. Obviously, Solskjaer had some good performances for Manchester United. He beat Pep, I think, 3 times. There were counter-attacking football. Martial, Rashford, Bruno were doing very, very good jobs. So yeah, I think he'd be someone who to United would massively appreciate the club. Now, if you look at his starting 11 predictions or whatever, I've seen someone line up the Maguire and Lindelof as the centre backs. I mean, happy we don't have to see them anymore. It would be a 4-2-3-1. Lamont in goal. I think it would be Mazraoui right back, Shaw left back. Now I know he loves Maguire, but I think it would be Martinez and Yoro or Martinez and De Ligt as the centre backs, I think it'd be Casemiro. He loves Kobe Manu. Casemiro, Manu, Fernandez, and Ahmad and Burmo Cunha. Sorry, I think that would be the team that that he would inherit. Now let's look at the last team, because I think that's certainly something very interesting. In terms of the team that was in his last game as the Manchester United manager, because I think that's definitely something to look at, and kind of see. But the team was De Gea in goal, which again we know he's not going to be at the club. But yeah, I think it's very interesting to see in which the way, the teams. This was the Manchester United team. De Gea in goal, a back four of Wan-Bissaka, who's no longer at the club, Lindelof, Maguire, Shaw, McTominay, Matic, Fernandes, Sancho, Rashford, and Ronaldo. So, listen, that was a team in Solskjaer's last game, and you look at that team now, it'd be Le Mans, Mazraoui, and I'm not going to go through all the players, but it would be a significant upgrade. So again, I'm excited to see if Solskjaer does come in. I think he's a manager who gets the club, and in a short-term role would be very, very good. Now the concern would be if he does do well, United would probably give him the job, which again, warning signs. United have to go out and get a top level manager, even if he does do well, and I think that is the concern. But yeah, in terms of his coaching staff and whatever, I know a lot of people are concerned with the fact that it was McKenna and Carrick that were doing the coaches. Obviously, they won't be at the club. So see how his coaching would work. But yeah, I think it'd be very interesting to see what does happen with him at the club. Talks are advancing. There has been contact made. We'll hopefully get some official confirmation soon. I think in terms of his first game, I mean, it probably would be the derby, and there's no better game for Ollie to return to, the Manchester derby at Old Trafford. It'd be a rocking atmosphere, and it'd be great to see him again at the football club. Now, again, in terms of other managers to bring in, don't know who you go out and get, but yeah, Ollie looks like the one at the moment, and he's going to be playing. Attacking, counter-attacking football, the Manchester United way. Now, again, I think he would have a lot of players to come in and help him, ex-players. I think, obviously, Johnny Evans is at the club, and he will be at the club for the game tomorrow against Burnley. Darren Fletcher, Carrick. I think I'm excited to see what does happen. So, yeah, let's see what does happen with Solskjaer, but that is the latest. It's looking like the deal is close. He will be on his way to Manchester United soon, and I'm excited. And yeah, let's see what results Manchester United get from now to the end of the season. I think there's certainly enough of the season to salvage it from now to the end of the window. So we end of the summer, and obviously the main reason why Amram got sacked, I don't think Ollie would be someone to demand anything in January, and I think he'd be able to work with his team. There'd be enough depth. You get players back from AFCON, and you just work and see what we can get out of this season, because I think it's way too early. I think Ineos, I've kind of written it off, but as fans, we can't allow that to happen. And I think there's a big end to the season in store for Manchester United, whether that is getting Europe, winning an FA Cup. I think seeing Ollie at the club would be very interesting, and I think no one expected this when he left. What was it, 5 or 6 years ago? But again, Manchester United, a strange football club. So yeah, Ollie could be back at the club. We will have to wait and see what happens, but that is the latest news. Contact has been made. Talks are going on. He said he would even come back to the club for free, so I'm sure Sir Jim Radcliffe will see that as a massive tick, but we will have to wait and see what happens. So yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. Now, I'm going to stop talking about Ollie, because again, I've talked about him there for a while. He's a manager who's been linked to Manchester United. We will have to wait and see what develops. We'll also bring you all the news as well. Now let's talk Darren Fletcher. He did his press conference for the game today, against Burnley. Let's go through some of the quotes that he said. They were certainly very interesting. He talked about how it's a privilege to be the manager of Manchester United. So yeah, he said he's excited to be the Manchester United manager. So Yeah, his first press conference as an interim, he said it all happened very quickly with a game to prepare and a quick turnaround, training sessions to organise, speak to the players. The focus is in on the Burnley game, and I think that we deserve to give the Burnley game the respect it deserves to prepare the team in a short space of time. He said to lead out the team is amazing and it's an honour, something I'm really proud of to do, but not in the circumstances I expected it. So happy that is something which doesn't quite so easy with me, but I have got to think about the job I have to do, and I have to lead the team tomorrow and think of the great honour and pride in doing that. He obviously then was asked about Jack and Tyler Fletcher. He said, I will not be disclosing team information. They were in the training group. We assess a couple of players tomorrow. They're in the periphery, but we have to wait and see. I hope it resembles a United team who the fans can be proud of. They have a lot of quality in that team. It's not about them. I'm here to help them. He also then added Mason and Bruno were pushing to play and have trainer will be back in the squad. So listen, that game tomorrow against Burnley is a very interesting game. He said it's a game to win against Burnley and his energy's been on that. He said he would talk with everyone after the game. And he said he's not what he's thought about staying longer. He said focusing on Burnley. And he speak with Wilcox and that after. So yeah, we'll have to. It's going to be a whirlwind of a game in the next few days for Manchester United. But certainly Darren Fletcher, he said he's going to have Travis Binion, who has a close relationship with him, Alan Wright, his assistant, and also will have Johnny Evans. Now again, my feeling is if you do bring in OLE, I think Fletcher will stay at the club. But listen, it's a big game for him. I'm excited to see how it goes for him. And yeah, I think it's a moment that he's wanted. He's come. Well, I wouldn't say he come through the academy, but he's someone who was very important as a Manchester United manager. And yeah, it's a great moment for him tomorrow against Burnley. It's certainly a very interesting game, a fascinating game. And the quality, he said he wants to play the Manchester United way and what he thinks would be that. So yeah, I think that's something to definitely look forward to. I'm excited to see what does happen. And yeah, let's see what does happen with that sort of decision going forward. But Darren Fletcher, I'm excited to see how that game goes tomorrow against Burnley, the team that he selects, the formation, all of that stuff is an exciting opportunity for him. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is this Martin Fernandez obviously returning, this Luis Enrique. Luis Enrique to Manchester United, I mean, it certainly is something that is very interesting. There's a story that's come out. Again, I don't think it's that credible, but we'll go through it. And obviously, in the summer, as a potential manager, he would be someone I'd certainly 100% look at. Now, let's go through the news first. I think that's something that we always have to do and talk about the source in which it came from, because it's certainly something that is very interesting as well. So, yeah, he has been linked in the last few hours with a move to Manchester United, Luis Enrique, and the news is saying that he will not be signing a new contract at PSG. So Luis Enrique is officially available in the summer, and he will not be signing a new contract. Apparently, there's no such. Apparently, the rumours are not true. But again, he's refused to sign a new contract because he wants a new challenge in the summer. So listen, I think this mainly is just due to Manchester United being out of a manager, and why not link Luis Enrique, one of the best managers who won the Champions League, won the quadruple, I believe, last season. Would he be on the way to Manchester United? I don't think so. I think you look at the state of this club, any manager that's coming is going to have to be strong in terms of making a decision, and I think it would be very interesting to see what does happen there. But Luis Enrique, we know the pedigree and the quality of football that he plays, a 4-2-3, 4-3-3, aggressive, high energy tempo. He's done a very good job at PSG, very good job at Barcelona. He plays that aggressive, high intensity football, possession based, and I think he'd be someone that before we got Amorim, he was someone who was linked to Manchester United. Now, do I think anything will happen and materialise of this? No, I don't. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely someone to kind of look at as an option as a manager. There will be a lot of internal discussion going on. Again, would he leave PSG to join Manchester United? That's what you have to look at. But again, there's no doubt he's one of the best managers in the world and in Europe. And again, PSG, we've seen players leave there. I know I've seen Barcola apparently wants to leave. He wants a new challenge. So if he does want a new challenge, I mean, Manchester United probably the most difficult job in world football. You've seen top level managers come here and ultimately get sacked. So it will be a difficult role for whoever manager that comes in. I think Luis Enrique would be someone that I definitely would like to see at the football club. Again, there's rumours at the moment. Do I think anything will materialise? No. But let's look at the way in which he plays. Very high aggressive, tempo, getting wing backs, getting his fullbacks into the box. And we watched a lot of PSG games last season. The Champions League final, they thrashed Inter Milan 5-0. Like, so we know the sort of the quality. We know the quality that he has as a manager, and I think he is a top level manager, top level coach, and yeah, I think he'd be someone who's very welcomed at the football club. And I think looking at him as I don't know what his contract situation is. Is it up in the summer, free age? But we will have to wait and see what does happen with Luis Enrique. He has been linked with a move to Manchester United as a potential new target. As United build up their portfolio to go out and get someone else now, Luis Enrique, what I can say is top level manager, experience. And I think look at the state of this squad. You've got a lot of good players there, and they are probably fit for this system. So do Manchester United go out and get him? That is the $1 million question. We don't know as of yet. It's going to be a decision that's made in the summer. I think the fact that they're waiting to the summer is a good thing. You don't want to bring in a manager mid-season, and ultimately the quality issue as well. I think he solves that. Doesn't play a three back. He would demand control, but again, he's a manager for me, top level, very very sort of advanced, and know exactly what he's talking about. If he does come to Manchester United, I wouldn't hopefully let. I mean, he is going to be controlled, and again, the main thing is, would people want to come to Manchester United just to be the head coach? Probably not. He's going to want to be the manager of the football club, and ultimately, Enrique is sort of the guy for me that you'd want that to happen. So, yeah, let's see what does happen with Enrique. Now, in terms of where would he rank, he probably would be up there at the top with the Nagelsmann's. Enrique, he would be up there for me as one of the top managers to come in. But again, I think it has to stem from the fact you have to give him control, because we've seen top managers come in and fail at Manchester United. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see what happens now. Listen, the next thing I want to talk about is Amorim. There's been some more news come out surrounding Ruben Amorim since his sacking at Manchester United, which I do want to talk about. Apparently, he wanted to bring in players. He wanted to bring in Nuno Mendes. He wanted to bring in Nuno Mendes, didn't get him. He wanted to bring in Quenda and these sorts of players. Amorim frustrations also focus on being knocked by the fact that he wanted to sign multiple players from Sporting: Quenda, Diamande, Salvador, Blopper, and Morton Holman. Sources close to the player, sources close to the manager explained that Amorim did not feel the support from the key figures at the club, particularly regarding the decisions in the transfer market. So again, I think that's where the frustration has come from Amorim, all around the decisions and what he said in his press conference. Now, in terms of other news that's come out, which I'll talk about now, so yeah, Amorim's frustration focused on him not being able to sign former players. Quenda's camp spent weeks in talks with United, only for the Portuguese youngsters to agree to deal with Chelsea, who joined this summer. Sources at United have stressed that Kenda's similar profile to Ahmad meant that interest eventually fizzled out. Diamande's physical profile was huge appeal to Amorim, while Blopper was another he lobbied for to no avail. Holman was another player Amorim saw as filling a much needed hole in midfield, and someone he did not need to explain his tactical ideas to. Again, the United hierarchy had other targets in mind to overhaul the midfield this coming summer. So it's obvious that there's obviously a power struggle at Manchester United. Ineos and Wilcox are making all the decisions. And again, I think you have to respect, I think what they did with Ten Hag, they gave him the freedom to sign players, and he went out and signed a lot of his ex-players. And again, that was something that was never going to work. And this time, they didn't give Amorim any control. Apparently, he didn't want Sesko, he didn't want Le Mans, he didn't really have any choice on which players he wanted to bring in. So that's probably why he's frustrated. You can understand that. Yes, a lot of those players there, or all those players there, is ex-players. But ultimately, if he believes they are sort of the players to bring in, then why not at least give him the option? Because I think as a project, you had to give him more time. They abandoned it 14 months into the project, and that was a concern, because you should have never done that. You hired him on an 18-month deal. Ratcliffe said he's going to give him 3 years, and the biggest concern and the red flag is the fact that they got rid of him that early on. into his time at United. I think results wise was deserved, but it's another poor decision by Ineos. Now, Amram arrived at the training ground at 9:30 and left half an hour later as he was dismissed in a meeting with Chief Executive Omar Barada and Jason Wilcox, Director of Football. The coach confrontation approaching the meeting was obviously the final straw, and he continued to resist call to Titch's back three system. Amram didn't have many personal possessions, so he cleared out his desk quickly and left. So, listen, he didn't really care. He looks happy, he's smiling. I think he's just happy to get out of Manchester United. So, yeah, we will have to wait and see what does happen there with sort of the managerial situation at Manchester United, but that has been the latest. I don't think there's much else to talk about. We've talked about Ollie. He is looking like he's on his way to Manchester United. Again, excited to see what he does happen at this time at the club. I don't think we can get too carried away though. If he does do well, because we've seen it before and we've seen that happened. Ollie's at the wheel and all this stuff. So yeah, we're not going to go through anything that's happened as well now with Ruben Amorim. That's all done. Um, yeah, apparently Ollie wants to become permanent manager. I think that's where sort of the problems kick in and where the problems do lie. But let's see what does happen with the next 2 days at Manchester United. The game tomorrow is a fascinating game against Burnley. See how that goes. Again, it could go either way. United could thrash them, they could lose, but let's let's see what does happen in that game. In terms of the Burnley preview, it's already out, so check that out. And again, it's looking like Ollie's back at the wheel, and he will be joining Manchester United. Again, we keep you up to date with anything that does go on. I think it's a big sort of few days pending for Manchester United on getting a new manager, and the contract situation at the football club, whether that's yeah. And in terms of Luis Enrique, what I want to say is, how do you afford him? Because you need lots of money, which we don't have. Um, you need hundreds of millions. You need to invest a lot of money into the squad. And listen, look at all the players that we have. We have players from, as I said, loads of eras, and I think to bring in Enrique, you're gonna have to invest a lot of money into the club. Um, I think what you could say about Ollie as well, if he does come in, would the players respect him as an ex manager? We will have to wait and see, but we'll see you tomorrow. For the Burnley game, it's certainly going to be very interesting to see how that games go and whatever